Welcome to In the Cockpit, the monthly show where we discuss topics and things and whatnot.
Yeah, that interstitial content that we do where we do the talky stuff at the mic things for the audio program that doesn't like to record it anymore.
It's almost like the update to Audacity made it more of a virus than an actual program.
Honestly, it feels like the fucking update hates running on my computer.
Yeah,
and
also...
it will actively try to crash everything.
Also, it's loaded with bloatware.
Mm-hmm.
Spies on you.
I hate it. It pisses me off. But I also know how to use it, and I haven't found a good functional other free fucking audio recording software that I like.
Yeah.
So instead, I just rolled back Audacity to an older fucking version.
Yep. But anyways, like I said, this is the show where we bring topics to the table to talk about.
My topic is I hate Audacity.
That's not a topic.
Yes,
That's
it is.
That's very meta.
Cool. It's still a topic. Topics can be meta.
No, they can't.
Well, there goes my other topic, which was to talk about meta. Facebook's is meta, but whatever. Fuck you.
Isn't meta dead or dying?
I can't talk about it. I'm not allowed to, apparently.
It's okay. I also didn't bring any topics to the table. Not really, at least.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about Pierce the Veil's new album.
Jaws of Life, their first album in 7 years? 7
years. Last album was 2016, Misadventures.
It was alright.
This is the last album they did with their original drummer, Mike.
Yeah. Who is no longer with the band for very, very good reasons.
Yeah. And I think him leaving the band has drastically shifted their tone.
Yeah, I would say so.
But also, I don't know if it's just him leaving the band or if it's the fact that they've been gone for 7 years.
I have no idea.
He's like, counting the band starting with their first album to their last album, that was 9 years.
Yeah.
There's almost been as much time between their first album and fourth album as there has between their fourth album and fifth album.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, before they were very much
They were definitively a post-hardcore band.
Yeah, or even at times bordering a more pop-punk vibe.
Yeah, they had very pop-punk vibes, that's true.
And now it's like a post-grunge revival, almost, doing like a punk core kind of vibe.
Yeah,
there's a post-hardcore vibe.
There's a lot of like grunge aesthetics on this new album. Mm-hmm. I think I nailed down what a lot of that was during my second full re-listen.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of that is that instead of vocals being on top of the music, that is very common in like all music today, not just metalcore, but like in pop and country and everything.
They're letting it sit with the instrumentation, not necessarily under it.
But like it also lets them do this cool thing in some songs, like Emergency Contact, where the instruments just fall away and it's just his voice for a couple seconds.
And there's not a lot of heavy augmentation to the voice at all either. Like, we're not putting it through any filters, which filters aren't bad when you're listening to shit, no matter what someone says.
Yeah.
Sure, you can over auto-tune something, but like auto-tuning something's fine. It helps adjust a pitch bit. It can add a bit of a layer to a sound that you really, really want to that you really want to hear, you really want to have like in there.
Look, filters, digital correction, all of this are just evolutions of tools that have been being used in music for over 400 years. When Beethoven wrote Moonlit Sonata, the way pedals worked on pianos were so different than how they work now that you cannot actively play hit the Moonlit Sonata on a modern piano correctly. It's impossible because the changes of technology. But like,
we've made fucking mutes for like every fucking wind instrument because we want to change the way that sounds.
It's just an evolution in technology. That's all it is.
Yeah. Like, if you have But my biggest issue is you hear so many like metalcore or metal fans or rock fans who have problems with fucking filters. And I'm just like, bro, do you know what gives the crunchy sound of that guitar? It's a fucking pedal, and pedals are just distortion.
I think there's a reasonable argument that you should be able to perform your music live if you're a touring musician.
Yes.
But like, I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to perform without computers or anything. Like, if you have to bring a laptop and run a digital thing, do it. But I think if you're a touring artist, you should be able to perform music live.
Yeah, like, hey, yes, you should be able to play that instrumental section there, like the chords, the notes for it. Do I expect it to sound exactly the same if we're not running through all the pedals and all the filters? No. Do I think you should be able to sing the song? Yes. Do I think you have to sound exactly the same as you do on an album? No. That is a ridiculous expectation.
But I think we were very close to a conversation about how Pierce the Veil have shifted in sound.
Yes.
Because they were post-hardcore, pop-punk, depending on how you want to label it. Those two labels feel very similar to me a lot of the time.
Most labels do, because genres are made up. Categorizations.
Exactly. And in the case of like some genres, the window of what we categorize as that genre shifts over time.
And it shifts so rapidly, or doesn't shift at all, which is weird. Because like, as a thing, I think looking at things from a metalcore or post-hardcore community, or even a rock community, we see these big changes. We see these like big categorizations, or what we would consider big.
Mm-hmm.
But then if we look at like what I'm going to call radio station genres, so like country and pop, those ones move a lot. Like you have a big transition between like what was country in the late 90s to what's country now.
Yeah, as a kid who had to ride a school bus and lived in the middle of nowhere, I listened to country music on a near daily basis for about 7 years of my life.
Yeah.
And the country music that was country music when I was in middle school is not like the style of country music you hear on the radio nowadays.
Yeah.
Because what you hear on the radio nowadays would have been called Southern rock 15 years ago.
Yeah. So, but my big point here, though, is rock as a radio station genre.
Yes.
Has not changed.
Oh, yes, it has.
No. As a radio station genre, it has barely changed. It is the same bands that you have from the 70s and the 80s.
The umbrella's gotten bigger because, hear me out here, in my brain, the best example I have for you is Electric Light Orchestra. They are not a rock band in their time.
Mm-hmm.
They were a disco band.
Mm-hmm.
They now get classified as rock or classic rock.
Yeah, but not a lot. My point is, as far as radio station genres go, rock has hardly changed.
Okay, yeah.
But
it's the same as it was 40 years ago.
Yes, but if you look at the subcategorization of all of these things, the ones that the like really into it fans give it, country doesn't really do that. Pop doesn't really do that. Because pop is just like, well, it's popular. Pop is a very dumb genre.
Pop is a brilliant genre. Pop is a genre designed to change.
Yes, which is what makes it very, very different. But like, if you look at the rock genre, and you look at people that are really, really into it, you have like the rock from the 80s, and people will recognize that as rock.
Yes.
But then you have all these little subcategorizations that, to me, it's weird that a subsection of music that likes to identify itself with a group of people so heavily against the idea of being grouped and classified and identified is the group that groups, classifies, and identifies itself so much more than any of these other genres out there.
Well, I think
part of it is the looking for a way to other yourself from something else.
Exactly. I was just saying, part of it is 100% that, like, as maybe less so today, but there has been a history in the rock and metal communities of being othered by society already.
Yes.
And then
when you have other people getting into it, that you don't identify with, you need another way to do that.
Yeah. And so there's 100 subgenres from stuff like thrash and doom and sludge to like metalcore, post-hardcore,
progressive thrash.
Yeah, like
death, melodic, black.
And
post, grunge, punk,
and that
cowpunk, Celtic punk,
and that leads to a like gatekeepiness in the metal community. Like, it's wild. There's a joke among the larger scale of metal fans where like people are like, "Oh, don't go to this show because their fans are so gatekeepy." Yeah. But at the same time, I've heard so many people be like, "Oh, that's not real metal." Da, 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 da.
Yeah, it's like, crazy.
I went to Mayhem one year.
Mm-hmm.
I think you went?
I don't remember.
I know it was me, Justin, and Matt.
I honestly don't remember, man.
Okay, so we went to Mayhem one year, and the main stage at the end of the night was, and I think this is the order because we were all really upset.
No, I didn't go to this.
So it was Trivium opened on the main stage. Mm-hmm. Followed by Asking Alexandria, followed by Korn, followed by Avenged Sevenfold. And we were upset at the order because Trivium is definitively a stronger band than Asking Alexandria.
I would say so, yeah, definitely.
And it's even more upsetting because this was when Asking Alexandria was in the height of their drug and alcohol abuse problems.
Oh, yeah.
And Danny couldn't walk on stage.
Yeah, you could not get a performance out of them.
Yeah, they were terrible. So it felt really bad that Trivium went on before them. But I digress. The point I was leading to is Matt Shadows, lead singer of Avenged Sevenfold, came on stage, and about halfway through his set, he stopped what he was doing. He's like, "I see the crowd's really thinned out since Korn performed."
Yeah.
I get it. People say we're not metal enough to headline this festival, which is a ridiculous statement.
Yeah.
But it's also a statement I literally heard people say in the crowd.
So many times, yeah. It's crazy.
And he's like, well, that's okay. They're right. We're not. This next song is about sex, violence, murder, sex after death.
Yeah. Little Piece of Heaven.
It was a Little Piece of Heaven, which is a masterful song, but is definitely not like classically metal.
No, but it's a wonderful song.
Yeah. My point is though, like, it was so much a joke that like the vocalist of the headlining band of one of the biggest metal festivals, touring festivals in the United States was making jokes about it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, and there's a lot of big problems with the genre and gatekeeping, especially in communities like that. And honestly, it's annoying, but it's really just the reason why I don't really like trying to label something as a genre. One, because it always feels like I'm slightly off from whatever I'm trying to genre.
I hate when people are like, "Oh, well, what genre are they?" And I'm like,
I can get
good. Is good a genre?
Yeah, like if you want something besides genre, can you be like, what are like some influences? What are some bands or sounds that are similar to, or like some influences? And I'll be like,
that's even a problem for me sometimes. Because who do I tell people 12 Foot Ninja's like? But I'm like, hey, you should check out 12 Foot Ninja. Where do I go? They sound a lot like blank. Because
no, that's why you look at a bunch of different influences and mention it. And even then, like, it can be weird, but I prefer that over just trying to give you a genre most of the time.
Yeah.
But even then, it can still be hard, obviously.
Well, like, it's also, I feel like, and I'm not a very specific microcosm of this. I feel like a lot of fans of alternative music, metal, rock, poster, all this stuff, like a large section of the music.
Yes.
They're not super genre specific fans. Like, some people are like fans of prog music.
Yeah.
To the end of the earth. They love Gent, they love prog, they love mathcore. All that stuff is theirs. But like, even then, I feel like they'll branch out. So when I say something like one night I saw Ice Nine Kills perform a cover of an Adele song that made me cry.
Yeah.
And the next night I was getting punched in the mouth listening to Black Dahlia Murder live. Like, that's not that big of a jump in my mind. Like, they're very different musically, but they're both metal bands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a weird thing, but like, I don't know. I don't know if I have anywhere else to take this topic at this point. It was just me kind of complaining about genre as an ideal.
Well,
but also recognizing why it does show up.
While we're on the topic of music genres.
Oh, I also don't like film genres or video game genres a lot either.
I think
they're more useful in film. I just like them more in video games.
I think in video games, genres are incredibly useful to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean...
I can tell you blanketly, I do not like most first-person shooter video games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fine blanket statement.
Yeah.
I can't say that about just about any music genre. I can't look at any music genre and be like, I don't like the majority of this genre, except for a lot of like modern radio country music. There's good country music out there. It's just not the what's wrong with America today music that's currently being played.
Yeah, but I mean, you've just said you can't do that, but you literally did just do that.
For one genre.
Yeah, you also did that for one genre of video games.
No, I can also be like, I hate platformers. Goddamn, do I hate platformers.
Except you don't. I've seen you play multiple platformers that you enjoy, you just hate the idea of a platformer.
With a passion.
Yeah, but then I'll watch you play them and you enjoy them, so you're wrong. You'd have arbitrary things you've decided that you then test and prove wrong repeatedly, like how you hate roguelites.
So I honestly did hate roguelikes for the longest time. For a really long time, I hated video games where like I would put effort and time into a game and then die and it's all gone.
Yeah.
Like, for a really long time, that was my least favorite type of game because it just felt very bad to lose all that progress. Mm-hmm. And then I discovered Bloodborne.
Yeah,
And Bloodborne
still seems like a problem to me.
And Bloodborne opened that door for me where I'm now like, Hades is probably the best game ever made.
See, I can get behind Hades because Hades has like a really good story with all of it that I vastly enjoy. But you gotta give me something, and Hades does it really well. But like other things,
But yeah, in general, games where death permanently sets you back is not something I enjoy, but it's something that I've come to like. So
yeah,
but yeah, no, genres just serve to separate and cause arguments, I think. From
for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like, I understand why they exist. I understand the point of them, whether it be in books, movies, video games.
Well, like, even if they didn't exist, if we could, like, just erase everybody's concept of genre today...
we would slowly recreate new versions.
Tomorrow, people would recreate genre.
Yeah.
Because it just becomes a very easy shorthand. Like, I can say, as a blanket statement, not really the biggest fan of most horror films.
Yeah.
Which is true because I think most horror films are schlocky and bad, because I think it's very hard to make a good horror movie nowadays.
Yes, but I think...
in general.
In a somewhat contradictory statement, I would say you are a fan of suspense thriller horror.
I love thriller, and I love suspense movies, and I love good horror movies. And, like, I just think that there's a difference in what makes a good horror movie versus what makes a good rom-com.
Oh, no, there definitely is. Like I said, I get why they exist. They do just kind of annoy me. Especially when media, for some reason, always takes a big point about like, oh, this thing's genre breaking. And it's just like,
you mean
what you mean it's outside of what you have chosen to strictly define this genre as? But what do you want to bet if I look back, you'll say something else was genre breaking that, I don't know, is like kind of the same thing as this?
Well, I mean, that goes back to 12 Foot Ninja. They're a genre breaking band.
Yeah.
Their Wikipedia literally calls them fusion metal, which is a genre named after a food cuisine.
Yeah.
Because we reached a point where the genres don't break down far enough to tell you what 12 Foot Ninja sounds like.
Yeah.
Fusion, of course, being a cuisine where you take two or more types of cultural foods and mix them together. In 12 Foot Ninja's case, that's where you take music like Muzak, like elevator Muzak, and combine it with rock or metal, or like...
well, reggae and salsa and Moroccan metal.
Yeah, exactly. So...
yeah, I know. But I think I'm good on the topic of genres for now.
Yeah. But
do you have anything else you can think of that you want to talk about at the moment?
I watched some movies.
Oh, yeah? How were those?
Out of the three of them, I would only recommend one of them.
Okay, that's about the general passing rate of movies. I mean, like, I would say about maybe one in every 3 movies I watch. I'm like, that one's good enough for me to be like, someone might watch this.
This is not one I'd recommend. It's called Vivarium. I put it on
Sounds like an indie horror game that I bought on Steam for like $2 when it was on sale.
That's also how I would describe the movie.
Nice.
It's a mystery thriller film that I put in my list of movies to watch on Amazon Prime a long time ago because it had actors and actresses I liked in it.
Oh, that's the one with Jesse Eisenberg that you watched, isn't it?
Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg and
another person.
Imogen Potts.
Yeah.
She did V for Vendetta 28 Weeks Later.
She was in V for Vendetta?
She plays the young version of Keira Knightley's character.
Oh. It's been a while since I've watched V for Vendetta. Continue.
Yeah. But that movie was not good. It was actively bad. It was about the horrors of living in the suburbs.
I mean, it's pretty terrifying.
But also, like, not in... It was about the horrors of living in the suburbs and having the American dream of a life.
Yeah.
But also, instead of like actually making a movie about that, it was about aliens abducting people and forcing them to raise alien children. I
get the point of it and I understand the vibe there. But like, yeah, it sounds like probably could have done that better.
Also, the movie is very heavy-handed with its metaphors.
Gotta love a heavy-handed.
Jesse Eisenberg character literally spends no time with his family because he's busy digging a hole that is literally his own grave.
Oh, that's what I would call heavy-handed.
Yeah. Movie not good. It was only 99 minutes though, so not the worst waste of time I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
And then I watched Bryan Cranston on Hot Ones.
Okay.
And I wanted to watch his rom-com Why Him?
Oh, yes, the one with the Franco.
Yeah.
James Franco?
James Franco. And Zoe Dutch. And I wanted to watch it because he talked about how Paul Rudd had to convince him to take the role because Cranston is one of those people who actually like thoroughly reads a script multiple times before committing to a role.
Makes sense.
And he read the script for this movie and was like, there's nothing here. So he reached out to Paul Rudd, who's done so many rom-coms. He's like, is this normal? And Rudd was like, yeah, rom-coms come together via the chemistry of the actors once they actually start filming. So a lot of things that end up in the movie aren't in the script, and you kind of build from that.
Makes sense to me.
And Cranston was like, that sounds really appealing to me, so he did it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, cool, that sounds like a lot of fun. I want to see Cranston do a rom-com thing.
I can see that, yeah.
Everywhere it is, it's gated by a paywall, and I didn't feel like paying to watch it. Because I have so many like things to watch free movies. Why would I pay to watch a mid based on all the reviews?
Yeah, I have seen the movie. I would call it mid.
Rom-com. So instead, I fell down a Zoe Dutch hole. She's the lead actress in Why Him. She plays Bryan Cranston's daughter.
Okay.
Her most famous role is probably in Zombieland 2. I don't remember who she plays.
She plays the woman who was trapped in a freezer, right?
I think so, yeah.
Hid in a freezer to survive?
Her name's Madison, yeah.
I think that's who she was.
That's probably her most famous role if I had to like pick one. But so I fell down a hole of her movies. Watched a movie called Flower starring her.
Okay.
Which is... It had a very Hard Candy vibe. I know you didn't know what Hard Candy was.
Yeah, I had no idea what Hard Candy was.
Hard Candy was a Elliot Page movie from like 2003, 2005.
Honestly, aesthetically, from the trailer you made me watch, it just feels like the entire inspiration for the like dark plot points of Life is Strange.
Yeah, a little bit. I could see it.
I mean, let's face it, Max Caulfield just feels like the type of character Elliot Page would have acted as when they were younger.
Yeah, 100%. I could see that. That if Life is Strange had gotten a movie in 2007, I could see Elliot Page playing the starring role.
Yeah.
But Hard Candy is about a young woman who hunts down a suspected pedophile.
It's Sucker Punch, but in a real world setting.
Yes. And Flower seemed to have similar vibes because the main character and her friends basically entrapped older men into having sexual relationships with younger women.
Yeah.
And then blackmailed them for money. Unlike Hard Candy, there isn't any like actual comeuppance for them. They just lose money.
Yeah. Okay.
And Flower goes off the rails really far, ending in a like pseudo incestuous relationship by the end of the movie. A very what are you doing, stepbrothers?
Yeah, no, I don't. That sounds like a bad way to end that movie.
Movie was a solid 5. Like it is the most mid of mid. Would not recommend Flower.
Yeah, no, sounds like a bad time.
Which is upsetting because I really like one of the lead actors in Flower as well, Adam Scott. I love that man.
Oh, I do like Adam Scott.
The last movie I watched though was another Zoe Dutch film. It's a Netflix original.
So actually, you're 1 out of 4.
3 films. Flower, Vivarium, and another Zoe Dutch film.
Oh yeah, you didn't watch Why Him. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, it was a Netflix original rom-com starring Zoe Dutch called Set It Up, and it's about a woman...
Set It Up sounds like a Disney Channel movie name.
Yes, it does, but it's about 2 people who work for, like, they're directly assistants to, like, Fortune 500 CEO type of people.
Oh, so it's a Hallmark movie instead.
And they set their bosses up so that they can get more free time, and then they end up falling in love while setting their bosses up. It's Parent Trap, but CEOs.
Might still just be a Disney movie then, actually.
It's very good. It was like a solid 8. Out of all these movies I watched while I was sick, this one was the best. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good, I guess. I mean, like, the fact, though, that, like, the only good one is the honestly sounding kind of tired/bored rom-com story plot.
It's also got the best cast, though, because like, it's Zoe Dutch, Lucy Liu, Taye Diggs, Pete Davidson. It's a legit stacked cast. It was a lot of fun.
It just sounds like the most out of all of the themes there. Tired.
Yeah, 100%. It feels like a movie that should have existed before 2018.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it already did, just with slightly different story, probably.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was one of the topics I actually had. I didn't realize I had a topics.
Good job. I'm proud of you.
I thank you.
Mm-hmm. I still don't really have any. I mean, I watched Rubber for the second time in my life.
I watched the first 15 minutes of Rubber for the first time in my life.
Yeah, I watched Rubber for the second time. I really didn't remember much of it because I watched it one night when I had no sleep.
Uh-huh.
And
how was that different than normal for you?
I was also not interested in watching it at all the first time.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. I will admit, the idea of the movie still wasn't super interesting to me this time, but because of the situation that I found myself in watching it this time, it was more entertaining because I could rib it with other people, whereas before I was just watching it by myself.
It's weird how the difference in watching a movie can change in between watching a movie with people you can talk to while watching it and watching a movie solo.
Yeah, because sure, Rubber could be read as a giant takedown about how directors or writers as artists are forced to continue or make bad stories because of audiences that are attracted to these very basic storytelling details of violence or sex, murder, language, whatever.
The Matrix 4.
Yeah, and that even when they feel like wrapping something up themselves, the audience will hold them captive and things will go off the rail, which where they can't control it, and then the audience will throw a fit, and the only true way to end something and let it go in the way that the creator wants to is to ignore the audience or to kill the audience, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Rubber's such a weird movie where nothing makes sense, and that's the whole point of it, right?
Yeah.
Because in Rubber, you have the basic story of, hey, this tire is sentient for some reason, has telekinetic powers to kill things. Okay.
It's the weirdest. Like, I thought the movie was about a tire that ran over people.
No.
But apparently, yeah. Okay.
And then we tell it all through a lens of, there's this audience that is obviously a stand-in for the actual audience, watching this tire roll around and kill things. And the people involved in providing this entertainment for the audience tries to poison them all so they die and they can just end the film, aka the tire rolling around killing shit. But because one guy doesn't die, they have to continue on. They don't know what they're going to do with the story. And as it goes on and things getting weird, this guy actively steps in to complain to the people involved in the story about how it's not going how he wants it to. Which is obviously a really, really easy read of, man, don't fans kind of suck? Or the fact that artists can't control the story or tell the story that they want to suck?
Well, I mean, this is exactly what happened to Akira Toriyama in Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I completely agree. Sometimes having an audience sucks.
But I think, though, like, having an audience can suck.
But it can also be really, really good.
It's why Akira Toriyama couldn't just make Gohan the main character of the series like he wanted to. But also, I think what Rubber doesn't criticize, and I made the joke about Matrix 4, but the Matrix 4 does criticize, is that it's not just the audience dictating what you can make, it's the people behind the producer label.
The people who want the money from the audience.
Yeah, because Matrix 4 is a movie that is metatextually about being forced to create art that you don't want to create, because Warner Brothers told the Wachowskis, hey, if you don't
own the rights.
If you don't come back and make the 4th Matrix movie, we'll get somebody else to make the Matrix movie.
Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, if it's going to happen, we want to be involved.
Yeah. So metatextually, it's very much about being forced to make art that you don't want to make. which Rubber has that vibe, but doesn't really criticize the higher ups. That
because
that process.
Obviously there's good sides and downsides to the audience generally.
Yeah.
But you don't ever really hear that many good sides about the production pushing something. Because like when your audience...
And when you do hear good things about production pushing something, it's the production just stayed out of the way and let me do what I wanted to do.
But like when you have an audience, sometimes your audience can be frustrating, especially for certain things. And the larger your audience you get, like the bigger the problems appear, obviously, right? But a lot of times you know, like more independent creations and stuff where there's an audience, especially for things that I'm aware of. A lot of like actual plays or podcasts and stuff, really, the audience like loves to like theorize about things, right? Or they're thinking of like this really cool world thing and they'll mention it. And like, yeah, sometimes you're just like, well, that doesn't actually fit with what we're trying to do here.
And then other times you're
just like, oh my God, that's great. Can we use that? And so often, especially in contexts like this, there is that actual conversation of like, is this okay for us to use? Or what were you thinking about this? And you have like a bit of a dialogue back and forth, which is always great to see.
Totally unrelated, but entirely related. Can I tell you a theory I have about the Kingkiller Chronicles?
Sure.
Patrick Rothfuss got to a point where he's written himself into so many corners that he can't actually write himself out of in one book. So now he is waiting for the community to solve all the problems. Because if you haven't been on the Kingkiller Chronicle Reddit, it's literally so many fan theories every day.
Nice.
I think he's just like quietly waiting on these subreddits for people to solve the problems for him so that he can finish the series.
I don't want to agree with that, but like, I'm not going to say you're wrong.
He's definitely not writing anything.
I think he's probably writing stuff. Do I necessarily believe it's what's going to be in the next book? No, but I do think he is a person who enjoys telling a story, which is why he does do this. So I think he's definitely writing stuff, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's for the world, because he does have a lot of ideas for the world, but necessarily for the exact continuation of the Kingkiller Chronicles? Yeah, I don't know about that part.
I have to counter you and say I don't think he's writing anything, because it's been over a year since we were promised one chapter from the book as a fundraising goal for charity.
Yeah.
And it's been 10 months since we were promised a blog update on the chapter for the charity. We haven't even received the blog that was supposed to tell us about how the chapter was coming.
Yeah.
I don't think he's writing anything at all, ever.
I don't know, man.
Except tweets.
I legit have no idea.
I'm not going to get on the Patrick Rothfuss train.
I would prefer if we didn't.
But yeah, sometimes artists rely on the audience to help steer their creation, and other times the audience is literally the worst thing that could ever happen to you.
Yeah, it's crazy. I assume you also probably see quite a bit of that in wrestling. Like, obviously you enjoy it. I don't keep up with it, but like, there's definitely a lot of things that probably I would assume the fan base adds to something.
So
that may not necessarily show up in it, but like, I feel like probably occasionally does.
So I think the best example of this, I think this was WrestleMania 30, the build up to WrestleMania 30. The most over wrestler in the history of the 21st century was Bryan Danielson.
Okay.
Daniel Bryan, sorry, at the time.
Yeah.
The wrestling audience expected him to win WrestleMania, expected him to win the Royal Rumble and headline WrestleMania, but instead Batista won. The crowd almost rioted.
Yeah, like I was about to say, that sounds like a bad timing.
So it was this thing called the Yes Movement that, like, technically the Yes Movement started as a gimmick for Daniel Bryan, the Yes chants.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But it grew out so far out of that people were threatening to boycott going to WrestleMania if he wasn't main eventing.
Yeah.
It got so big that WWE had to change their plans and make him one of the headlining acts because they were going to be losing money because they weren't doing what the fans wanted.
Okay. So there may or may not be either of those examples. Like,
it's fans dictating the story. But
that could be both a good or a bad thing.
It's a great thing.
I would assume it's great because, let's face it, WWE generally has bad storytelling. But, like, also it's a bad thing if you already have a current storyline. Like, they didn't have a delineating lines there.
They didn't have a current storyline. What they had was they were getting Batista back because he had retired. He had made Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, he'd been doing Marvel stuff.
So they were getting him back to get a pop.
Yeah.
And they were doing Legacy versus Legacy, Batista versus Triple H at WrestleMania, and like building that up as big as they could.
Yeah, so they were throwing actual talent that people cared about under the bus because, hey, who cares? We have these big names that everybody knows.
The exact thing we feared was going to happen this year at Rumble because there was all these talks about The Rock coming back.
Yeah.
And there's a whole storyline going on about the bloodline, which is about the Anoa'i family, which The Rock is
a part of.
He's related. But not related. Like,
yeah.
He's
He's wrestling related.
He's bound to the Anoa'i family through a blood bond. Not like blood relations, but like...
Okay. One of them saved him from a Imperial prison encampment, and now he owes them a life debt. And even when they die, that life that's going to be passed on to their children, he never gets to go back home to Kashyyyk.
From what I understand, Samoan culture actually has like a concept of blood family where you like make a blood pact with somebody and now they are your family, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. And so he had a blood pact with an Anoi family member, and so he's a quote unquote Anoi family.
Yeah.
But the bloodline themselves are actually all legit Anoi family members. It's Roman Reigns, Jay and Jimmy Uso, and Solo Sikoa. Mm-hmm. None of those are their real names, so...
Crazy that WWE wouldn't use their real names.
Yeah, but like, the Anoi family goes back forever. The Wild Samoans, Umaga, Taka, like all these people... Mm-hmm. Famous wrestlers, also a member of the same family. But there's this whole, like, Roman Reigns is the head of the family storyline that WWE is doing.
Yeah.
And there's been these teases that The Rock is, like, the actual head of the family in the shadows. And, like, there's a story that's being teased of The Rock versus Roman Reigns at some point.
See, that doesn't work, though, because Reigns is apparently over. And we know by the way The Rock has done things that The Rock can't be the bad guy.
Exactly.
He has Hogan syndrome now.
This storyline would be The Rock being the bad guy.
Which he can't do. It's why Black Adam was a bad movie.
Yes. And there was a lot of talk of him showing up at Royal Rumble and winning Royal Rumble to go on to face Roman at WrestleMania. Because the winner of the Royal Rumble gets a WrestleMania shot against the champion. Okay. The only champion right now is Reigns. He has both world title belts. But the fans have wanted Cody Rhodes to win the Royal Rumble for 2023 since he was injured back in the summer of 2022.
Okay.
So, if Cody Rhodes had not won, and it was anybody other than Sami Zayn, who currently has a massive fan backing as well.
There would have been a huge backlash from the fans.
Exactly. Yeah. But The Rock has basically said that he doesn't want anything to do with WWE right now, with Vince McMahon and all that, which, can you blame him?
No, I really can't.
But, yeah, fans have a massive influence on stories. I think in WWE, it's more like, at this point, fans don't trust the Federation, the WWE, to put on a story that actually has a good resolution.
I don't blame them.
Whereas in AEW, if a decision is made that the fans are like, I don't know about that, most of the fan base for AEW is willing to stop and be like...
They'll let them cook.
We'll be like, we'll see where they're going with this. Like,
let them cook.
Right now, I am thoroughly upset that the Acclaimed lost the World Tag Team titles.
Yeah.
But I assume the direction we're going is FTR getting the World Tag Team titles. And they just didn't want to put face FTR against face Acclaimed and make the fans pick, because the worst thing you could do is falsely turn one of these tag teams heel when they're both so over as baby faces.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So have the Guns as heels, cheat to win, have FTR take the belts off the Guns, bada bing, bada boom, you move the titles without turning anybody heel.
Yeah, it works.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot of like fan, and I think in wrestling, sometimes the fan pushes are harder to see.
Yeah, I would think so, because it's kind of just everyone is kind of constantly pushing for their favorite wrestler, basically.
Also because it is, there's still kayfabe to a certain extent. So sometimes when fans are pushing for something to go a certain direction,
you literally can't have it go that way.
So you can't tell if that's been the plan the entire time or if the actual fan push has shifted the storyline in any way.
Yeah, because the alignment of the story is apparently in line with the fans. But because it's an ongoing story where they are trying to hide as much.
Well, also because sometimes...
they're working as much as possible, basically.
Well, and also because sometimes, as part of booking a wrestling show, you want to, like, rile the fans up, so you push in a direction you know they don't want, knowing that you're actually going to end up in a...
You're going to swerve.
Yeah. So knowing that you're trying to build heat changes how the story is told sometimes. And it's hard to tell if that's fans or if that's just a good booker.
Yeah, but there's obviously, as you're saying here, an acknowledgement that, fans obviously do affect it.
Yes.
Whether it be for the negative or the positive, at times they do have a very big say in it. Yeah.
And obviously, on a larger macro scale in wrestling, fans have so much power to shape the story, because if the person a wrestling company wants to be the face of the company or wants to be a world champion can't, like, get the fans alongside them, either as a heel or a babyface.
Yeah.
A proper booker will drop that and try to push somebody else instead. I say a proper booker because we had 10 years of Roman Reigns before Roman Reigns was successful.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating. It was probably like 5 years, but there was a time when Roman Reigns was main eventing WrestleMania every year, and wrestling fans wanted nothing to do with Roman Reigns.
Understandable. I mean, they were pushing a story that they didn't care about, so...
Yeah.
Why would they want to interact with it?
Exactly. That's exactly the thing. Sorry, I know you just handed me the ball with wrestling and I went way too far, way too fast on it. Wrestling is probably one of my favorite art forms, honest to God.
It's like improv in a very regimented form where I don't care about the improv suggestions being made. I can appreciate that the improv is done well, but no one's making a good suggestion.
I think wrestling is really enjoyable from both an athletic standpoint, but also as one of the only like living and nationally televised theater performances out there.
Yeah.
Because theater is such a upper scale thing, like that's the way it's portrayed, but like theater is really a community thing. But if you don't have the community around a theater in your community, you can't actually experience that. But wrestling is that same type of storytelling with improv.
Yeah, kind of.
It's also like the last remnants of like traveling circuses on a national level, on a world level.
Yeah.
Like you still have circuses, but they're not the same type of circuses. Thank God they aren't the same type of circuses as they were 100 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's really the same with wrestling. Like, the vestiges of it are there, but it's very, very far removed, which is a good thing. But I mean, like, using that as a way to call it back to it, I feel like it's the same stretch to be like the same as like what we currently have for sort of performance, where it's like, yeah, I mean, technically they both have the same root, but like, it's so far removed from the root that I don't think that part of it matters.
That part of the history of it really intrigues me. Like, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I only watch wrestling because I love the theatrics of it. I love like how the story's told. I love wrestling as wrestling. I love it for what it is, all the stupid shit in it, as much as I love it for the fact that it's still like the most theatrical thing we have on national TV.
Yeah, see, you do that. For my improv, I mainly just listen to actual plays I enjoy, and then when I want to watch people do good stunt work, I'll go watch a film of some sort.
See, I think the difference here, though, is you have to, like, imbibe two different things, whereas I get all of mine in one.
Yeah, I get more enjoyable content that I don't waste as much time on as you do for yours. So, like, ugh.
Okay, so, while we're on wrestling, this week on Dynamite, which is one of AEW's flagship shows, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF, world champion, one of my favorite wrestlers, had a promo, and it was a promo meant to like make him look like a worse human individual, and it was about how he'll always, given the opportunity, do whatever it takes to come out on top. Yeah, and this promo involved a young teenage MJF. Getting roadhead from a girlfriend. But he'd been in trouble for speeding too much, and he was like a point away from getting his license revoked. They crashed because the road was wet, and he took her unconscious body, put her in the driver's seat, and jumped into the passenger seat. I only tell you that story in that regards because there's also this kayfabeness, this idea that what happens in wrestling is real, that is still present today, even though we're in the year 2023 and kayfabe is basically dead.
I'm aware.
The police department for Long Island received hundreds of phone calls reporting MJF for that crime, even though it was a promo for a wrestling show.
Yeah, see, that doesn't mean anything about the performance to me. That speaks to a fan base that I cannot get behind for some things like that is
like I heard the story and obviously was like, oh yeah, this is obviously it.
Yeah, see, my brain goes, man, that's dumb.
It's also a reference to a song. I can't remember what song off the top of my head, but
that doesn't do anything for me. I don't care about your kayfabe. In fact, it actively annoys me at points.
I'm aware that you have issues with kayfabe.
I don't like it. I think it's unnecessary and a waste.
Yeah, yes and no. I think a lot of kayfabe...
Look, when the only other people, really, that care about kayfabe are shitty magicians and con men, I don't think you're in good company when kayfabe is one of your big selling points.
I think most wrestlers don't, like, drive kayfabe as much...
Yeah, no, they definitely don't do it as much nowadays, but my point is, like, I don't see it as a big selling point. My brain just goes, okay, cool.
MJF fully embraces kayfabe, like, to such an extent that in public he acts like a dick to fans because he's a heel. But I think that's part of what makes MJF as a character special, is this, like, embracing of kayfabe in a modern day world where kayfabe is dead for the most part. Like, Chris Jericho's a heel, but he doesn't treat fans... When I say treat fans like shit, I don't mean like heels treated fans like shit in the 80s. Because heels in the 80s, to keep kayfabe alive, legitimately treated people like shit. Like, MJF will just call you like a stupid mark and walk away. Yeah. Like, there's a difference between how MJF treats fans shitty and how like wrestlers...
No, I think there's definitely an upside to, I don't know, being a heel with kayfabe at that point, because you have it gives you a very good excuse to cut off interactions you don't want to be in, obviously.
That's beautiful, though. Like,
yeah, but I mean, like, also, fuck it, do that anyways. I fully support any celebrity, no matter what their station is, to be like, fuck you, I don't want to deal with you right now, and leaving, because hell yeah.
There's this video currently circulating on TikTok and Twitter in the wrestling sphere. Rey Mysterio is at an airport.
Yeah.
And these fans, heavy quotation marks, walk up and ask for an autograph. He signs one of their things, thanks them, and then goes to walk away. And they have like 30 more things they want him to sign. Because, like I said, heavy quotation marks, they're not fans.
They just want stuff to sell, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, he walks away and, like, puts his hand up and, like, they start filming him so he covers his face because he's not in mask.
Yeah.
And, like, the TikTok and, like, stuff is from their perspective. So they're doing their best to make it look like Rey Mysterio is being a dick and wouldn't sign things for a fan. But, like, you're right. He has every right to be like,
yeah,
no, fuck you guys. Like, I thought you were fans.
And I would argue that kayfabe there is, in the situation for a face, more detrimental than it is for a heel, obviously, because they are almost, by the idea of it, more obligated to do those things.
Yeah.
And thus, kayfabe can be restricting on both things. Now, obviously, there's a difference with celebrity there as well, where you are societally obligated because of the pressures of what you should be doing. But my point is, I think kayfabe only serves to exacerbate already large issues with fame.
I thought you said as a face there, and I thought you were talking about like the fact that he wasn't wearing a mask.
No.
And they're like, it makes a bigger issue.
No,
like,
me using your terminology.
Yeah. No, but like the fact that he wasn't wearing a mask is also an issue.
Yeah.
It's less of an issue for Rey Mysterio,
because he's multiple times revealed his face. But yes, and in the sense of Lucha sense, yeah, no, it would be extremely detrimental for him.
Yeah, because if he hadn't had demasked at some point in the past, and his face got leaked, and people associated this character with that person,
yes,
he would have to restart his entire Lucha career, essentially.
Yeah, which is another thing, like, kayfabe goes a bit too far. I think I'm more okay with kayfabe as a Lucha thing, strictly because the mask does allow you to separate that so much easier, to where the kayfabe kind of ends at the ring. It ends at the performance.
Yeah, and Lucha with their kayfabe allows for generational characters.
Yes.
Which
is why I appreciate it there more, because you are telling a generational story. You are doing this. It is literally, you have built this as a stage as a performance, specifically as that, and it doesn't feel much like a kayfabe really then, because it's not about preserving this identity outside of it.
I think there's been 3 El Panteras at this point.
Yeah.
It's got, like, people like to compare wrestling to, like, anime, like, redneck anime is one of the, like,
yeah,
or superhero comics, and like Lucha is truly the embracing of that, because in Lucha it really is, we've had a Flash before, but this new Flash is still that character. It's just a new person being that character. I don't know. I love wrestling in a lot of ways, including like the lucha aspects, and in Japan's whole you can't be a main star until you've traveled the world. Like,
no, see, that one I can get. It's not really so much a kayfabe thing. It's a weird tradition, but I think it's neat. I'm just saying I don't like kayfabe.
Yeah, I get you.
It's outdated and unneeded.
Yes, I want to agree with you. Like, not like my brain is being like, yeah, kayfabe is stupid. We all know Undertaker's not a like literal zombie. But on the other side, my brain is like, yes, but Abaddon is legitimately a zombie. I'm sorry. Like, I think, how should I put this? Wrestling has such a wrestling is fake stigma to it.
Yeah.
That when they push stuff and let you, like, for a little bit, just believe stupid shit, it's fun. Like, the idea that Jungle Boy was actually a child that was lost in the jungle and raised by a dinosaur, complete bullshit. The idea that this man in a dinosaur mask is not a human, but an actual dinosaur, complete bullshit. But it was so much fun in the moment. It's so stupid and so fun.
It's still the exact same suspension of disbelief they're asking for. It's just asking you to expand it outside of it for no necessary reason.
Yes and no. Like, kayfabe should extend to, like, meet and greets and stuff.
Yes, no, to, like, set up media interactions makes complete sense when you are basically paying your performer to be said character. Yes.
But if you meet Jack Perry and he's wearing jeans and a t-shirt, like...
Yeah, if I meet him out in the wild and I'm like, well, why aren't you dressed as a Jungle Boy? No, kayfabe doesn't need to go that far. And what I'm saying is there are definitely people that do that.
Yeah.
But if it's a media interaction or whatever, no, it's perfectly fine. You are portraying a character. I get that you are basically fucking medieval times actors, or you're fucking owned by Disney, so you have to be this fucking character whenever you act with someone. So I assume if I ask you where a fucking toilet is and you're a hill, you're going to spit in my face and tell me I'm a piece of shit I should already know.
Which feels very like something that would have happened in the 70s or 80s. Like,
yeah.
You would have walked up to a wrestler at an event and been like, "Hey, dude, I really got to use the bathroom. Where is it? You don't know he's a heel." And he turns around and he goes, "The fuck you asking for, you piece of shit? You should already know where to get flushed."
Yeah, some shit like that. Like, yeah, no. My point is, like, there are obvious degrees to where it goes too far. And honestly, think about it. Disney World actors constantly have to perform in kayfabe, and it's horrible because of it.
When they're on the clock.
Yeah. But they don't have to do it outside of it. I'm saying, think about if they had to do it outside and how much worse it would be then, too.
Yeah.
I'm saying kayfabe is unnecessary to degrees.
So, here's where I agree. Kayfabe should not be enforced by the promotion or company outside of working hours. Mm-hmm. If an actor, which is what these characters...
Yeah, no, if they want to do it outside of it, that's fine. I'm saying I don't think it's necessary.
Like, which is why I think MJF is a very special thing.
Yeah, I guess.
Because he does all his interviews in kayfabe. He has this idea of MJF as the character that he keeps on 95% of the time.
Yeah, no, that's completely fine, like I was saying. But I was just saying, like, I don't think kayfabe's necessary, and I think personally, kayfabe is overhyped as a selling point by wrestling fans.
Fair enough. Like I said, I think we're mostly in agreement here that outside of like events associated with the franchise, they should be free to be themselves. Yeah. Because part of like the thing with wrestling that is different than every other art form is that for a lot of these people outside of WWE, their name in real life is also their name for their character. Yeah. So, like, Maxwell Jacob Friedman is Maxwell Jacob Friedman's real name. So, at some point when he wants to separate who he is from this wrestling character, he's going to have a harder, like, making that distinction.
Yeah, but look, like, here's a weird example that I'm going to throw out there. I think in either situation, it's weird, even if you have a wrestler who goes by the same name and everything, and they're acting kayfabe out that side. And also, if I had ran into, like, Andy Griffith when he was on the Andy Griffith show, and he's just acting like he's fucking Sheriff of Mayberry, I'm going to be like, that's weird, man. I know you're an actor, like, come on, bro. You're from fucking Mayberry? No. Like, kayfabe is accepted in wrestling because it's been there. But if you think about an actor who does any long-term show, if they were acting like their character outside of it, you'd be like, that's just fucking weird, man. Why?
No, actually, I think we just call that,
method acting?
We just call that method acting.
Which, so many times people are like, man, method acting's weird. Why do people do that? It's odd. Like, it's weird. And even then, for most method acting things, when we talk about it, it's like for a movie, we don't talk about someone method acting their entire fucking career as one specific person.
Man, I love the idea of, like, specifically a character like Kane or The Undertaker, like, carrying kayfabe as far as MJF does. It's like, could you imagine Kane running Knox County?
Yeah, he would show up in a burst of fire, point at someone menacingly. All of the light would go out, even though it's, like, fucking noon and it's an outside rally. And when it came back up, his opposition would be gone. Flames would shoot back up and he'd walk out. If you're lucky, you might get like the weird robotic voice he did in the tiny bit.
And honestly, like, Kane as a mayor would from a political perspective be so much better for Knox County, Tennessee. Like,
I don't know. They would have a lot of missing persons.
Yeah, but on the flip side, what's the, like, most that he's going to do policy-wise? Make it illegal to put out fire?
Yeah, and set things on fire. And he would just be setting things on fire.
Fair enough. Actually, that's terrible.
Like, it would just burn. It would just burn to the ground.
If they were keeping kayfabe, Kane would be, like, letting things burn down, and then suddenly the lights would go out, lightning would strike, and his brother, who burned down his family's house when he was a kid and framed him for the murder of his parents, would show up, and, like, lightning would shoot from his eyes.
Yeah, it'd be weird, man.
Yeah,
I know, but my point is, like, kayfabe is really weird in all contexts, except for when it's wrestling, because it's just been so long as a part of it.
Yeah, and I think kayfabe is really toxic.
Oh, and like I said, and magicians, because they're weird too.
I think kayfabe can also be really toxic when a character, like, kind of loses who they are with the character. Yeah. Like in the case of Vince McMahon, where, like, his character he was a piece of shit, and he sexually abused people, and he would just use his money to buy himself out of situations.
I'm sorry, you're describing rich people.
But, like, he believed that character so much that that's who he became outside of wrestling.
Nah, that's who he always was.
If you say so. I think he was just sticking to kayfabe.
I get that that's a joke. I do. But, like, there has to be at least some dumbass out there who will just pardon some shitty things people do. Not necessarily as shitty as Vince has done, but, like, just, like, being a shitty person to be like, oh, that's kayfabe.
I mean, probably, but, like, on the flip side, you don't even need kayfabe to do that. People pardon, like, the shit that...
Yeah.
I was gonna say Trump does, but, like, I don't want to get into Trump. Like, you don't need kayfabe for people to, like, make excuses for why Tillian is still a good vocalist. Like, people are gonna make those excuses to justify what they do. People are gonna excuse supporting the hate for an entire community so that they can play a stupid wizard game, even though, like... You don't need kayfabe.
True, I guess. My point is just like, it just adds another layer for bullshit excuses. But that's not really the big problem. Like I said, I don't think it's necessary, and I find it honestly a tad annoying. But I don't have a major problem with it overall. It's just not for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
So our topics for this time were what? Genre and kayfabe? That's kind of just it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Gross.
Well, I could give an update on how I'm doing in One Piece.
I mean, sure, if you want to.
I haven't watched another episode.
You haven't watched another episode? Not a single one?
No, I'm terrible at this.
That thing that I told you would happen? And you're like, no, I'll definitely watch more.
I will finish the series before the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. What about the other ones?
I will finish Bleach and One Piece before the end of the year.
What about Naruto? Not gonna happen? You already given up on that, bud?
I'm not giving up on it, but like my caring about Naruto is so much lower than my caring about Bleach and One Piece.
Question: How's that Doctor Who watching going for you too?
It's going great. I've only taken 2 months off. I just needed time to slow down on the Who.
Yeah.
Focus on the One Piece. Yeah. Look, I'm terrible at binging shows, mostly because I get sick of shows.
Look, man, I just told you neither of those things were going to happen, and I'm just being proven, right? That's all that matters.
Look, the only one that I actually made a promise to do was One Piece, and I will. And I guess I will get back to Lost at some point too, but Lost is terrible. Why do people like that show? Season 2 is garbage.
You're not wrong. It is garbage, but hey, man, you're the one who was like, I'm going to watch all of these shows.
Lost is only 4 seasons, right?
4 or 5, some shit like that. Anyways, though, I'm pretty sure that's it for this
6. It's 6 seasons.
Cool. Either way, I'm pretty sure that's it for this in the cockpit. So I got nothing else. I don't think you do. We have a decent amount of time under our belt for this.
Yeah.
So all the linky stuff that we normally do here at the end. If you want to email us, you can do that at copilotsreview@gmail.com.
You could tweet us or hit us up on Hive at copilotsreview.
Or you can find those both and our Discord link and our YouTube and our Patreon by going to copilotinterview.simplecast.com and finding all of those conveniently there.
Yeah, and we'll see you on the next flight where we're once again delving into the idea of reboots or origin stories. Sorry, origin stories.
Stuff. Where we dive into the idea of stuff.
Kayfabe.
No.